Welcome to AP and DP, SEC, ACC conference coverage. I'm Pete Stedham, multimedia personality from LA, Lower Alabama. Our co-host, DP, Doug Parrish, from the University of California, DB extraordinaire. Hey, DP.
How you doing, AP? Good to be back with you again.
Yeah, good to be back with you. We're having so much fun in this college football season. A lot of surprises, some upsets as usual. That unscripted drama, which we always
Yes.
mentioned, it makes it so exhilarating for the fans and the observers and the people covering the game. So, but we got another good week of football. I have 7 games here for you in the SEC DP, and I know you have, I think, 6. You told me so.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get at it. Let's get started.
Let's get at it.
We have that first game, Vandy versus Auburn. And DP, this is an interesting series. I did not know this, but it's very close. It's Auburn leads the series 22-21, one tie. Would you have ever imagined that was so even?
No.
Nearly even. Yeah. No. So Vandy, we know that they're ranked 5-3, 2-2 in the conference. Lost to Texas. Great challenge for them. Came very close. 27-24. Scored at the end. Had a chance maybe to go ahead and the onside kick, those types of things. But Auburn coming off a win, a huge road victory for them. They were struggling 24-10 over Kentucky, a Kentucky team that's headed south. And that's not good. You usually say it's heading south to the good weather, but no, it's not good when you're a football team when they use that phrase, heading south. Auburn 3-5, 1-4 in the conference. They're a 6.5 favorite. We always mention that inverse number for Vanderbilt. Their total offense 97, but scoring 40. That's a positive inverse number right there, DP. Auburn's offense is the exact opposite. Their total offense is 39, but their scoring is 71. That's a bad inverse number. So it should be a good ball game. And Auburn's still way down in turnover margin, 125 in the country, only 133 teams, I believe, FBS. Minus 1.13. Vanderbilt turnover margin is 27 at 0.63. So this would be a tough ball game. If Auburn runs the ball at home, Jaquez Hunter, 278 yards on the road versus what was at one point a very good defensive line for Kentucky, 278 yards. So that puts them near the top record-wise as an Auburn Tiger for a single game. If they can run the ball, not give it away, they probably have a good chance to win this game. But we all know, Doug, Diego Pavia. The name is magic for the Commodores. That quarterback that transferred from New Mexico State. This is the third time he's facing Hugh Freeze. He has beaten him twice as a 20-plus underdog. Hugh Freeze, he does not want to see this quarterback again, but you have to face him this weekend. So he beat him at Liberty with New Mexico State, and then last year came to Auburn with New Mexico State, beat him by 3 touchdowns the week before the Alabama game, just humiliated the Tigers on the Plains. So we know that he's feeling good playing at Auburn. This is the second time. So that's enormous for their team when your quarterback has that level of comfort to be on the road in a particular stadium and against a coach. But anyhow, so we'll move on to the next game, Kentucky, which I said is struggling. But let's give them credit, Doug, this year. The 2 best defensive performances, I think, in the country. Holding Georgia to 13 in Lexington and shutting down Ole Miss at home in Oxford. They won the game against Ole Miss 20-17, lost to Georgia in Lexington 13-12. They're 1-5 in the conference, 3-5. They lost to Auburn. Number 7, Tennessee had a bye. They're 16.5-point favorite. We know they lead the country, or near the top in the defensive category 3, scoring 13 in their offense scoring. Kentucky scoring 121. John. Defensively, their scoring is 28. Okay, they have some good numbers on the defensive side. They slipped up against Florida 48-20, gave up 48 points, but their sacks 31, tackles for loss 26, tackles for loss. Tennessee number 5 in the country. So I've seen this road show before by the Wildcats in Lexington, in Knoxville. It was not good. So I think Tennessee will kind of prevail. and put it on. So that's my first two games, Doug. Over to you with the
All
ACC.
right. Hey, those are two exciting games right there, AP. And I must say, the SEC and the ACC, they have some really good caliber teams this season. And I just looked at the AP top 25, AP. In the top 25, the Big Ten has 3 teams in the top 5, and the rest are primarily in the top 10. They are essentially the ACC teams. You got Miami, you got at number 5, you got Clemson at number 11, you got Pitt at number 18, and you got
Right.
SMU at number 20. And then on your side, you got Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss. I mean, the SEC, man, you guys are having a field day partying in the top 25.
I think so, Doug. Is Vanderbilt lagging behind? They had some votes this week. Maybe they dropped out.
I think they did. They had a couple of votes. Absolutely. They sure did, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Just jumping into the ACC for this week, AP, I have number 11th ranked Clemson Tigers against Louisville. Now, these are two of the top prolific offenses in the country. Clemson is 6-1, and they are taking on the Louisville Cardinals, who are 5-3. Now, they're number 10 in passing offense. Okay, look, the Virginia Cavaliers, they played against the Tigers, right? The Tigers won 48-31. The Cardinals last game, they won against BC. Now they beat them 31-27. So both of these teams are coming off of significant wins, which is great. It's great momentum for both of those teams. I'm looking forward to seeing who can maintain their energy in this matchup here this weekend. Now Clemson needs to be tested because Clemson has been playing against some, okay teams, not to say that they are not playing against some really great talent, but they need to show what they can do against a viable team so that they can move up in the rankings each week. And as you know, everybody's vying for one of those 12 spots to go to the playoffs. Now, Louisville's offense, they got a good coach. They're pushing their offense. The defense is climbing and clawing, and I'm excited to see how both teams will come out because they both have dangerous opponents, right? So when you have a dangerous opponent, you got to come out firing on all cylinders. The night is going to be amazing. They're going to be playing in a great electric atmosphere, AP, as you know. If Clemson really wants to stake a claim at the league top level in the ACC, they're going to have to come out and show everybody in the country what they can do. Nobody can put more pressure on Clemson right now than Louisville. But I think Clemson and Dabo Swinney will come out to secure a victory in this game, especially the way they have a junior quarterback, Cade Klubnik. He's slinging the ball all around the field, AP. He has over 1,800 yards passing with over 20 touchdowns. So the game seems to be in the favor of Clemson. My next game, AP, is Duke versus number 5 ranked Miami Hurricanes. Look, I've been watching Miami Hurricanes all season, and I'm sure you have too, AP. And what stands out the most as this slippery, magnificent quarterback that they have, who is definitely going to be getting some hardware at the end of the season. I don't know whether it's the Heisman or what. But this kid has over 2,700 yards passing, man. He has 24 touchdowns, AP. He's got to keep his interceptions down. He's got 5 of them. But, hey, that's not as much as a lot of these guys have that's throwing the ball around the field. His QBR rating is 91%, which is 3rd in the country, AP. He is doing really good. I definitely want to see how he's going to respond to a team like Duke, because if he can leverage the running game, as I keep mentioning, I think week after week, that their key to their wins is the balanced attack. Get the offense running with the running backs, and Damian Martinez was named ACC Player of the Week last week. He was a great running back. He's a transfer running back, and he was just bullying all over Florida State last weekend, man. So number 5, Hurricanes, they're 8-0. I think it's like since a long time, traditionally Miami has had some great teams, right? But they're going to have to really, really stay composed, stay focused. Their first-year head coach, Manny Diaz, is going back to Miami to play. So that's going to be an interesting thing. Now, Duke, they might want to keep that boost and keep that enthusiasm going because, Cristobal against Diaz is going to be an interesting game from the head coaching standpoint. But having your team ready and geared up and ready to play against your former team, he was a defensive coordinator there at Miami for a long time, and he's had some success there.
Head coach. He was a head coach.
Yeah. So Miami must leverage their passing game, AP, in order to achieve a victory against Duke's top defense. The stakes are high for both of these teams, AP, and I'm looking forward to seeing which programs is going to come out and excel.
Yeah, Doug, that game has so many storylines, and I just mentioned Malik Murphy for Duke, highly recruited out of California, played it, and he was one of the top quarterbacks in the transfer portal. I think Manny Diaz was very fortunate that he chose to play his next couple of years in Durham, North Carolina for the Blue Devils. And Doug, I was thinking about this. I think Mario Cristobal and Manny Diaz, I think they're both Cuban. I think they're both Cuban descent, I believe. So, Doug, this is a game in and of itself for the Cuban Americans to say we have 2 FBS coaches competing against each other. They were both the head coach of Miami. And of course, Manny Diaz was fired. That's his hometown. Mario Cristobal, he's from Miami, played on some of their championship teams in the early 90s, competed, on great teams. Yeah. So, and then you have the 2 quarterbacks against each other, transfers. Yeah. Cam Ward, I don't think was highly recruited, but he's turned into quite a football player with over, I think he's probably has over 16,000 yards between Incarnate, Washington State, and now Miami. And then Malik Murphy, he's getting a chance now to display all of his skills at Duke. And Cam Ward is Miami this year. As you know, Doug, you saw him play. Yeah. He is Miami because defensively, they can't keep people out of the end zone. And then Duke, they play a little bit better defense, of course, and have Malik Murphy as well. But I don't know what the point spread is, Doug, but if I get a spare moment, I'd like to watch some of that game myself, just to watch the 2 quarterbacks against each other, But anyhow,
for sure.
But yeah, thanks for the preview. But anyway, we're going to move on to a couple SEC games. Ole Miss, number 19 in the country, 7.5-point favorite over Arkansas. And Doug, this Ole Miss team, we know they have the potential offensively to score a lot of points. But when they face teams that some of the top teams in the league, they haven't scored as well. So, Doug, I just want to digress for a moment just to give the series history. Tennessee, 84, 26, and 9. That's the series between Tennessee and Kentucky. I just wanted to backtrack for a moment. But anyway, the series in the Arkansas and Ole Miss game, believe it or not, Ole Miss is behind in this series, Doug. Arkansas leads 38-30 and 1. So we know that Ole Miss beat Oklahoma, nice double-digit victory at home, 26-14. Mississippi State played Arkansas last week, and Arkansas defeated them on the road. They put 58 points on the board with that Bobby Petrino offense. Taylon Green, that transfer quarterback from Boise, which we like. He's had some moments this year. 58-25, they beat Mississippi State. So Ole Miss's offense, their scoring is 14th. Defensive scoring is number 1 in the country. Arkansas, offensive scoring 33. Defensive scoring is 42. The turnover margin for Ole Miss is they have a good turnover margin, 27th in the country, 0.63. Turnover margin for Arkansas is only 0.13. They're 79th in the country. Tackles for loss, Arkansas is 103. Sacks, 47. Sacks for Ole Miss, Doug's number 2 in the country, Tackles for
Wow.
loss, number 1 in the country, 2-1 on the sacks
Nice.
and the tackles for loss. So, but Lane Kiffin said Arkansas's defense has improved because they simplified that, Doug. And you know as well as I do, if you have some talented players that are fast, you don't want to overload them with information. You want
Correct.
them to play with their athletic ability to get to the football, guard the personnel in the passing
Right.
game as well, and gang tackling on the perimeter, and really concentrate, especially against Ole Miss. You have to be able to tackle one-on-one in space.
Sure.
So we're going to leave that game and move on to UMass, 2-6 versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State is a 17.5-point favorite. This series, Doug, is 0-2. Mississippi State leads this series. UMass won against Wagner, which is on Long Island, 35-7. And we know that Mississippi State lost that game to Arkansas. Put up 25 points with the young freshman quarterback Michael Van Buren Jr. from the Baltimore area. They lost 58-25. UMass is 121 in scoring, 103 on defense. Mississippi State should win it. This should be their second victory of the season. Mississippi State, their scoring offense 74th,
Wow.
scoring defense 124. There's less than 10 teams worse on defense than Mississippi State right now. Both teams in the turnover margin. UMass 79th in the country, but Mississippi State it's 86. So those are two SEC games, but Mississippi State should have a victory this weekend in Starkville.
All right, rock and roll, AP. Next up on the ACC, we have Florida State, 1-7. Let me say that again. Florida State.
That's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. And they had quite a few transfers, Doug. Quite a few transfers.
They play against North Carolina, who is 4-4. North Carolina has a better record than Florida State. And it's kind of hard to say and hard to fathom after Florida State complained so much last season. Man, put me into the national championship. Put me in. We deserve it. They have nothing to complain about. That could be further more from the truth at this particular time. I'm looking at a different Florida State team. I really sensed something very puzzling, even in the beginning of the season. I think I alluded to this earlier at the ACC media days. Something was just not vibing correctly with me and the head coach. And they're just right above Cal Berkeley, who's at the bottom of the pile for the ACC. I'm like, I'll give Cal a break, but Florida State, come on now. I mean, it's imperative that Florida States get back on track, right, during this game. They got to get their playmakers involved. Ja'Kai Douglas, who had 23 receptions, he's has close to 400 yards on the year. He's got to do much better than that. I think North Carolina's defense, surprisingly, should have a solid game, AP. But there's no reason for North Carolina not to put up major points on the board against Florida State this weekend. I mean, like Virginia, they barely, last game against Virginia, they just gotta win. They gotta get themselves back on track. Now, head coach Mac Brown on the other side, he's saying that his team, which is 4-4 AP, they got to just focus in on what they need to do, blocking and tackling. But more importantly, he feels like the team that's in that locker room right now is not the team that everybody sees. He thinks that team is much different, but they got to come out and show folks in America what they can do instead of just having great names and great statistics on paper. AP on the Florida State side, they continue to have a tailspin, and it continues. This is their fourth straight loss, and the Tar Heels will look to build their record, on this, led by quarterback Jacoby Criswell, who has over close to 1,700 yards passing, and he has 10 TDs for the season. So I'm looking forward to a competitive matchup between those two. It's going to come down to defense. Moving on to my second team is the second game, AP, I got is Stanford versus North Carolina State. Right. Now, Stanford is 2-6. They're 1-4 in the ACC. Now I'm giving them and Cal a little bit of a pass because they just coming in with the big meat. They don't know nothing about these boys down here in the ACC, man. So anyway, North Carolina State is 4-4 with a 1-3 record in the ACC. Now, one thing the Pac-12 has found out is that these teams down in the ACC and the SEC, there's not going to be a cakewalk. Now, Stanford is going through an adjustment period, of course, being 1-4 in the league. But AP, this is not going to be their third trip across country. So, yeah, man. So, you know, they grabbed a win against Syracuse, granted. But my old quarterback, Troy Taylor, needs to have more productivity from his quarterback, Ashton Daniels, who has only passed for 941 yards. And so we just got to we got to have more productivity from him as the game goes on. Now, their top playmaker, which is a skill position, as you know, Elik Ayomanor, he's a 6'2 sophomore. He has 42 catches for 485 yards, and he has 4 touchdowns on the season. Now, he's an electric player. They just need to get him the ball more. The offensive line needs to block more so that Ashton can get more time in the pocket to get the ball downfield. Now, in terms of North Carolina's defense, they're going to have to display immense pressure on them to keep an eye out for the linebacker, Sean Brown, AP. Sean Brown leads the team with 56 tackles. He also has 3 of the team's 17 sacks. Now, their sack leader is defensive end Davin Vaughn. He has 4.5 sacks for the season. And the entire defense has 6 interceptions of the year, led by a prolific safety by the name of Bishop Fitzgerald. He has 2 interceptions. Keep an eye out for that young man this week.
Okay, yeah, North Carolina State, yeah, they win that ball game. So we're going to move on. Oklahoma hosts Maine out of the Colonial Athletic Conference. Maine is 4-4. This is the first time they're playing each other, Oklahoma and Maine. Oklahoma coming off that road loss to Ole Miss. They're a 34.5-point favorite. Doug, Maine, one time they've played 30 games against FBS level schools. They won 4 times. They won in the SEC. They beat Mississippi State, believe it or not, in 2004. They beat Mississippi State 9-7. So Oklahoma had been doing the quarterback shuffle with Jackson Arnold and Mike Hawkins Jr. Going to proceed with Jackson Arnold, the passer, and they're coming off losses, Oklahoma. So they need to get right, I think, with this game going away. Oklahoma, this is a down year for them, Doug. You have to be pointing to try to reconfigure the whole team next season because things have not gone well because the defense has been overloaded. Started out pretty good this season, but when you have that offense, they can't score, and you're doing that 1-2-3 waltz and sliding to the bench, the defense is overwhelmed and they're bludgeoned and they're worn out. So anyway, we'll leave it there. Oklahoma should win in Norman. Number 9, Texas A&M, undefeated in the conference, 5-0, 7-1. They're a 2.5-point favorite on the road to face South Carolina and Columbia. South Carolina 4-3, 2-3. They had a bye last week. We know that Texas A&M had that great come from behind win over LSU. They were down 17-7.
Wow.
And they came back to win 38-23. That's quite a turnaround where you hold the other team to 6. You put 31 on the second half. Texas A&M, 39th in scoring, 19th in their scoring defense. They're high on the turnover margin, 17th in the country, 0.88. That's a good stat for them. South Carolina scoring offense 66, scoring defense 22. You know, we have those bookends that are very effective rushing the passer. The turnover margin, they're at 30 at 0.57. The series, DP, A&M holds the lead 9-1. But that Carolina at home, they've shown where they can be very tough. We know that Ole Miss bludgeoned them when they visited a few weeks ago. But it's only a 2.5-point game, Doug. Somebody knows something.
Yeah.
And A&M's been using the quarterback shuffle, and they're undefeated. Think about it. Everybody's
Right.
discussing the fact that if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win. I mean, I heard that tired news for a long time. My thing is, everyone, if you're on scholarship, they brought you in for some reason. You practice during the week. You have coaches telling you what to do. Your number is called, Doug. You have to perform.
You got to play.
This,
Yeah.
this idea that the left guard's not going to block for you, I don't buy it. You're on
Right.
the same team. The
Sure.
second string quarterback is your teammate. He's
Sure.
one play from being the field general for your team. So they brought in Marcel Reed. He was tremendous in that second half. Connor Wigman had some difficulties. He has throughout the season. So they're using the two quarterbacks and winning at the top of the SEC. Think about it, Doug. No one had Texas A&M 8 games into the season as being the leader and being the only undefeated team in the league.
Right. Yeah.
So Doug, I'm just going to finish up one more game here. We have a 7 game. I'll just give you this last game. Florida versus Georgia. That's a big rivalry. The series, Georgia leads 55-44-2. Florida has made improvements throughout the year. They have the freshman quarterback, DJ Lagway, Texas native, 6'3", about 240 pounds. He's only thrown, Doug, 86 passes, 54 for 86, 63%, 5 TDs, 5 interceptions. He's very good throwing the long ball. Florida, their turnover margin is 84th, not really high. Scoring offense, 47th, defense, 66. Kirby Smart, the Georgia coach, said Florida's defense is playing a little bit better. They controlling the run, tackling a little bit better. They made some improvements. Georgia 6-1, 4-1 in the league. They're a 16.5-point favorite, number 2 in the country. They had a bye, coming off a bye, 34th. Scoring offense, defense, 13th. We know it's 30th in sacks, 34th in tackles for loss. They're working on their timing game and the passing because their passing game, Doug, is number 13 in the country. Rushing only 95th. That's a big surprise for me because Kirby Smart likes to run. We always say that. So those are the 7 games in the SEC. But I'm thinking it'll be tighter than that 16.5 points, Doug. I don't know if I think Georgia will win, but I think it'll be closer than the 16.5 points. So back to you, and then we'll catch up on my buys when you finish, Doug.
Okay, fair enough, AP. I got Syracuse versus Virginia. Now, AP, they're going to be playing in the dome, and there's no elements, there's no snow, there's no rain, there's no thunderstorms, whatever. Nothing is going to stop this game from being played, man. You got to love that. It's man, oh man, you know? And so, hey, it's good football weather in Syracuse.
Every weekend.
They have a good spot. They're in a good spot right now. They're 5-1 right now, AP. And, they're 2-1 in the ACC, but, this is the midway point in the season. Brand Brown squad can still improve. The secondary is going to have to come up and secure tackles, and they need to get better at doing that. Coming up, tackling in space, you mentioned that before, especially Marlo Wax and Marcellus Barnes. Those 2 guys are coming back from injury, so they should help the Syracuse Orangemen with their defense. Now, special teams, we often, don't talk about special teams as much as we should, but the special teams, they can improve as well. Now, Elijah Robinson can do a better job also on the defensive scheming. So he's the defensive coordinator. Now, on the Syracuse side, Kyle McCord has 2,481 yards passing and 19 touchdowns, but he needs to cut down on those interceptions. Last game alone, AP, he threw not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 interceptions.
5 INTs. He was trying to set a record backwards.
And he sacked himself, too, to put an exclamation point on it. So, he's going to have to shake that off. Got to have a quick, memory, like forget about it, and just go on to the next play. But Virginia Tech, is in the driver's seat in the ACC. They're coming off a monumentous win against a good team like Georgia Tech. And then Virginia Tech's quarterback, Kyron Drones, He's thrown for 124 yards and 1 touchdown in that last game against Georgia Tech. So he's feeling really good right now. And let's hope that he can keep that same energy against the Orangemen's defense as they play under the bright lights in the dome. Now, AP, I got a special one here for you because both of these teams are ranked in the top 25. You got number 18 ranked Pitt against number 20 ranked SMU Mustangs. Look out, AP. There's going to be some galloping horses, man. I'm telling you, those Mustangs are going to be galloping in, trying to defeat the Pitt Panthers. AP, this is a matchup. Should be, Pitt's coming off a blowout against Syracuse, in which the defense registered 3 interceptions, AP. So the defense is clicking on all cylinders, and it's probably asking a lot for the Panthers to come and repeat that type of defensive display. But hey, once you got that momentum going, man, defenses can do some really amazing things. And what I respect the most, look, the selection committee, in respecting of the issues that they're going to have to go through in terms of selecting these 12 teams in the playoffs is going to be really challenging, right? But SMU are going to be right up there in the discussions in terms of who's going to be in those top 12 spots. Now, the Mustangs, they have to have a low-scoring game in order to win this game, right? But the defense, SMU is 15th in the nation in scoring. That's 39.1 points per game, AP. And their defense is ranked 39th, allowing only 21 points per game. Now, the safety, one of the leaders of the team, Isaiah Wokabia, leads the team in tackles with 57. He has 2 of them. He has two of the team's 12 interceptions, right? Ahmad Moses leads the team with 3 picks at the safety spot. Now, their defense has 17 on the year, 17 interceptions, and Isaiah Smith with 3.5. He's the edge rusher. So he's getting in there. He's getting the sacks. So it's going to be probably a low-scoring game, but it might just be a shootout too, because both of these teams have strong offenses, and they like to push the ball downfield, AP. So it should be an action-packed game. But look out for this freshman down. This freshman kid, Eli Holstein, is leading the Pitt Panthers. He's 6'4", 225, AP. And he's got 1,805 yards passing and garnered 17 touchdowns on the season. The future looks bright for Pitt, whether they win this game or not, man.
Yeah, Eli Holstein, the transfer out of Louisiana, was at Alabama. Now at Pittsburgh, leading them undefeated season. He's a real bright spot in the country, probably a big surprise, one of the surprise quarterbacks in that transfer portal. He's played very well for the Pitt Panthers, giving them a chance to contend for that ACC title. Hey, Doug, I just want to mention the byes. Alabama, number 14. LSU, number 16. Mizzou, number 25. Texas, number 6. Alabama, they have to continue to improve on the discipline, meaning the penalties, possession of the ball, cut down some interceptions, turnovers. Ryan Williams, he kind of cooled off now these last few games, the wide receiver from Alabama, the sensational freshman. And I think Jalen Milroe, it would be in his behalf if he can spread the ball around a little bit to some of the other receivers as well. I think that Justice Haynes, that running back, Buford, Georgia, number 22, I like him. I think give him the ball a few more times. Let's see if this defense could be able to shut down the LSU Tigers. That'll be next weekend. The Bengal Tigers down in Baton Rouge, a big game. It's really a playoff game. Every game Alabama and LSU play from here out in is a playoff game because they can't afford to lose. They have 2 losses. LSU, they're playing next week, the Alabama team with Jalen Milroe, one of the best athletes on the field. They have had trouble like they did against Marcel Reed of Texas A&M, a dual-threat quarterback. If they don't fix that lane integrity and the ability to corral the dual-threat quarterback, Alabama will walk all over them. So they need improvement in that area. Mizzou, last week, Alabama held Luther Burden III. We talk about him quite a bit. 3 receptions, 3 yards. That's not going to be a a winning formula for Mizzou. He's one of the best receivers in the country. They're
Sure.
trying to get their quarterback healthy, Brady Cook. So that was
Yeah.
probably part of the issue because the other quarterback, there was 3 interceptions, Drew Pine. So Mizzou's got to fix that offense and have played complementary football again. They're still have to keep their quarterback healthy. Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning's in reserve, of course. They can win with him. But Texas is a team, a lot of talent. They're expected to win. Can they manage the pressure from here on in and get themselves into the championship game in Atlanta, and also reach the college football playoff? Because that'll be a total failure, I think, in their eyes with their coaching staff and their fans if they don't reach the playoffs, especially this year in the SEC where things are topsy-turvy and they have their neighbors who they're going to play again in about a month. Texas A&M undefeated in the conference. And so if Texas A&M beats them and makes the college football playoff and the SEC championship, that is going to be a season which the Texas A&M fans will never let Steve Sarkisian live down.
That's correct. I agree.
Yeah, so that wraps up the SEC for this week, though.
All right. Well, yeah. So AP, I got a few buys over here. BC has a buy. Their next game is against Syracuse. So that to be an ACC matchup. Cal has a bye. Their next game is going to be in Wake Forest. And then Georgia Tech has a bye. Looks like that's about it on my front. I'm looking forward to the Golden Bears coming across the country to face off with the Wake Forest team here in North Carolina. So we'll see what happens, man. It's unscripted drama, as you say, of college football. Doesn't get any better than this.
We love it. So that's another edition of AP and DP, SEC, ACC conference coverage. And thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.